How's it going, everyone? This is another Security Unfiltered mentorship episode. So I know last week I did not post a mentorship episode. I apologize. I completely lost track of my days. I actually woke up Thursday thinking that it was Wednesday, like 100% certain that it was Wednesday, and I didn't realize that it was Thursday until noon. So that's how my week went. It's just been like that, ever since I've had all these, life-changing events and whatnot. But, here we are, right? The week of Defcon. So I'm actually extremely excited for Defcon. I'm really excited to, get to meet some of the people that I've been talking to on the podcast, meet them in person, a lot of them for the first time. That's going to be fantastic. I love, meeting new people, exposing new people to my podcast and whatnot. So that'll be fantastic. Just a quick note, right? I will be walking around DEF CON with Security Unfiltered shirts. Only for myself. I'm not selling the shirts right now or giving them away or anything like that right now. But I will be giving away stickers. And so if you find me at DEF CON and you ask me for a sticker, I will absolutely give you a sticker. They're not being sold anywhere else, so it's not like you can go to my website and buy them or anything like that. That doesn't exist right now. It probably will in the future, but right now at least I can give you a sticker. Who doesn't love stickers, right? Like I love putting stickers on my desktop case and everything like that, right? Like I don't put anything on my laptop, but I do like putting it on my desktop case. So this week's episode, I felt it would only be right or fitting that we would talk about Defcon 101, right? Because this is a giant conference. This is probably the biggest security conference in the world, which is it's almost hard to believe, but it really is, right? So, if you look at the different conferences in the world, right? We have RSA, we have Black Hat, we have Defcon, we have a huge amount of regional conferences or meetings with OWASP and, BurbSec and all these other, ThoughtCon and whatnot. DEFCON, in my opinion, is the biggest security conference. RSA is the biggest vendor security conference, right? But DEFCON is where, you actually talk to the experts, not necessarily from, Rapid7 or from, CrowdStrike or these big name companies. These people are here talking to you about how they took over a vehicle on the highway, right? How they took over an airplane, how they took over whatever it might be, right? Some biometric scanner. It's some really interesting stuff, right? I went to a talk one year that this guy talked about how he created an AI model, put it onto a Raspberry Pi, and was able to crack a safe. And what would normally take something, he had the numbers around it, right? Like what it would normally take, a normal person to be able to crack this safe. It took this AI model something like 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes to actually crack the safe, which was really awesome. It was really interesting. It was really cool, right? So you're going to be getting talks like that. That's what people go to DEF CON for. And it's really important for you to understand that, this actually isn't a vendor pitching event like a lot of other security conferences are. This is more of a, experts that are in the weeds getting together, geeking out, having a good time, right? Staying safe, or as safe as you can in Vegas, right? It's just about that, So the first place that I want to start is actually LineCon, right? So if you've ever been to Vegas or a security conference before, you know about LineCon. LineCon is when you're waiting in line, getting your badge, waiting in line to get into one of the talks or something like that, right? And you're hanging out with other people, right, that are there, that are in the same space as you. You know, the first year that I went to it, I had just gotten into security. So I didn't really have a specialty. I really didn't know very much. I mean, even today, you know, I feel like I don't know that much, but back then I knew way less than I do now, right? Um, and so, you know, when I was in line, actually, you know, going to get my ticket for Defcon or my pass for Defcon, I met someone that has a career as a bug bounty hunter. You know, that was something that you kind of hear about people doing and whatnot, but actually experiencing it and meeting someone that's like, yeah, I work for about 4 months a year just getting bugs and doing the bounties. And, you know, the other months of the year I travel, I take off, I do whatever I want. Sometimes I'll do a consulting gig here and there for a little bit of cash. But, you know, those first 4 months when I'm pumping out these vulnerabilities and these 0 days and whatnot, like it's money coming in. I'm working for 4 months straight, and then I, you know, go travel the world. And that was really interesting, right? I didn't know that was even a thing. You kind of hear about it every once in a while that, like, hey, that's a possibility, right? That's a road that you can go down. But it's not something that you actually think is going to happen or is possible, right? But then here, this, you know, normal looking guy is right in front of me talking about it because he does it, right? I met another person that reverse engineer malware, right? I mean, how often do you get to talk to these people outside of a podcast or hearing it on my podcast or another person's podcast, right? How often do you get to actually hear about these people, meet them, talk to them? It's very few. Very few times do you actually get to. So, you know, when you're in line, you know, feel welcome, I feel like, to talk to people, you know, to introduce yourself, to get to know other people, to potentially even exchange information not in a creepy way, right? Um, I feel like it is a great opportunity for really everyone at all levels of their career to network with other people. You know, you never know where a relationship or just knowing someone will take you. You know, if you want to work at Google or AWS or Microsoft, right? Any of the big tech companies, right? If you know someone at that company, you are going to get pushed through the process a little bit quicker. It's going to be a little bit easier for you, right? Um, if you know, if you have an insider at any company, it's going to be a much easier process for you regardless, right? So networking is actually key. And maybe you just network with a person, you know, and you end up being friends, right? You meet up at all the different security conferences. Maybe you get drinks here and there, right? But it's a great place to be. I always enjoy LineCon. Now, one mistake that I do see new people making a lot is that they wake up way too late on Thursday, which is, you know, the very first day of Defcon. They wake up way too late and they don't get their badge. They get a paper badge. Um, you know, every year Defcon manages to run out of their actual badge that they give to people, right? And it's first come, first serve. So, you know, if you did your pre-registration online and you already have your ticket, you still need to go to LineCon, wait in line, and pick up your actual badge. Now, the line is actually always moving, but you're literally going to walk for about a mile, maybe 2 miles, honestly, because the line is just that long, and they snake it around through, the resort there. Like, I think it's in Caesar's Palace, right? And they snake it around through these giant conference rooms, ballrooms, whatever they're called. Um, and yeah, you know, like, they snake it around. You're going to be walking for a while. But the line is always moving, I have found. And there's typically like beach balls being tossed around and hit around and everything. And so that it's a lot of fun, you know. but make sure if you're going to wake up early any day during this conference, make sure it's Thursday. You know, there's there's just no other way to put it. If you're getting in Thursday, I'm sorry. Maybe you don't care about the badge or something like that. Me personally, I really like the badge. I have a whole bunch of Defcon badges and ThoughtCon badges that I've been to and that I obtained, over the years and whatnot. I always like it. There's typically a puzzle with it, so you can hack it and it's like a game or whatever, and you can, go through it, that way, right? It's giving you something to do, something to, kind of show for your trip, right? Another thing that I see a lot of, right, is that people kind of get overwhelmed with the amount of tracks, of what they should go down and do, and everything like that, right? So when you're going to go to a talk, try and get in line early. Try and be in line 15 to 20 minutes earlier before when that time actually starts. Okay. The reason being is that these lines, they build up quick. And when the room runs out of seats to fill, they close the doors and you're not allowed in, which sucks, because you may have really wanted to go to, see, I don't know, designing RFID implants and how flipping the bird opens doors for people, for me, right? You may want to go see that one, right? But if you're not there early enough to get in line to actually get in and get a seat, you're not going to see it. And then it's frustrating, right? Because then you just wasted all that time walking there. You wasted all the time potentially waiting in line, everything else, right? And so it's better to just be early and wait in line, and hang out, do some more LineCon stuff, talk to people and whatnot, than it is to be late to these talks. Now, one thing that I want to bring up, right? There's different tracks. There's track 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's even a fifth one or something like that. Or maybe the fifth one is just, something what they call like war stories or something like that, right? But the tracks, it's not something that you have to, once you start track 1, you have to follow it through for all of track 1. You can jump around. It's just separating where those talks are, right? So Defcon, like I said before, it's like it's probably the biggest security conference in the world. And so they will have a track in, Caesar's Palace, for instance, right? I don't know where the tracks are right now. Obviously, I'm not in Vegas yet, but, they will have a track that goes through, say Caesar's Palace, and then they'll have another one in the Flamingo or wherever, right? Whatever the resorts are that they're holding the conference in, they'll have different tracks in those locations. Now, it is Vegas, right? So you got to plan accordingly. It could take you 15, 20 minutes to get to Caesar's Palace. If you're in the link, you have to go outside, you have to go up the stairs over the street there, and then go inside and find your way, right? Which, if you've never been to Vegas before, if you've never gone through those resorts before, these resorts are gigantic. I mean, you can get lost in them. You could spend an entire day in them, and not even be bored, right? There's a million things that you can do, but when you get the chance, look at the tracks, look at the different talks, make a list, see what you want to do. And I would recommend going to 1 to 2 talks a day. Really 1 to 2 talks a day is really where you want to be at. I've tried to do more, and to be quite honest, you just get exhausted. You just get destroyed at the end of the day. And what's more important about this time together, right? As hackers, as being a part of the security community, what's more important, in my opinion at least, is the experience. It's the villages, it's the parties, it's the meeting the people, talking about things that you're mutually interested in. Because, think about it, right? how many times are you able to actually talk with like-minded people in person, mind you, that maybe have a similar specialty as you or work in the same industry as you, but they have a totally different specialty? When else are you going to actually, talk to, um, these different people that are reverse engineering malware, right? I mean, I don't know anything about reverse engineering malware or anything like that, but it's really interesting, right? I don't have a single lick of a skill in that, but it's super interesting to me, and I would love to learn more. Um, so pick one or two talks a day to go to. Typically Sunday is kind of a wash day. Sunday is like when everyone is leaving for the airport and whatnot. So plan your talks accordingly. Plan for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to be your key talks that you're going to want to do everything in. And don't feel bad if you're taking notes. Don't feel bad if you feel like you don't understand it in these talks. Trust me. All right. Like 95% of the people in the room, no matter how big that room is, probably 95% of the people in that room are having trouble at different points in time in that talk or throughout the entire thing of understanding what's going on. I'll give you an example, right? So I went a couple of years ago, several years ago at this point, with a good friend of mine. We worked at the same company. We worked on the same team. He had a totally different skill set than me, but we worked on similar technologies, right? And so we decided to go to this talk that was talking about reverse engineering secured memory in Intel CPUs, right? So the title right there was extremely interesting. It wasn't that title, but that's what they were talking about. The title was very interesting. The description seemed really interesting. Nothing else at that time really piqued my interest. And so, we went to this talk, right? And I think maybe 5 minutes in, this guy completely lost us, right? We had no clue what he was even talking about after 5 minutes. And we stayed there and we both took notes. We took notes on things that we didn't even understand what he was saying or anything like that. Because when you're passionate about learning this stuff, you should at the minimum take notes and review them and maybe look things up. You should be writing down things that you want to look up later on, and all this stuff, right? Because you should be going there and hearing about war shopping, right? And hearing about how they're doing, hardware reverse engineering, right? And you should be taking notes. And maybe that's something that you're very interested in, you're very passionate about, right? Maybe it's a hobby of yours, or maybe it could be a hobby of yours. And you're taking those notes to, look things up down the line, right? So don't feel bad if you're taking notes or if you don't understand, because 95% of the people in that room do not understand what's going on. And most of the people in the room, probably about 50%, are probably taking notes. They're taking notes some way, right? Like I've always seen it. I've always seen people, on tablets, laptops, whatever might be their phone, that are taking notes. All right. And, for people, that are the first time going to Defcon, there's also a Defcon 101 track. Right. So that is designed to actually walk you through what I'm walking you through right now. It probably does a better job of it, to be quite honest. Right. But, it's something that you should definitely explore. I think it's only for the first day. Right. So it's something to keep an eye out for if you want to go ahead and, learn more about Defcon and how to navigate it and things like that. So, one thing to keep in mind, right, is if you don't get to a talk, if you aren't able to, go somewhere for a talk or make it, right, don't worry about it. All of the talks at Defcon are recorded. The only thing that isn't recorded is the villages, which, to be quite honest, I have heard nonstop good things about the villages. I haven't spent that much time in the villages, to be honest. But, all of the talks are recorded. So if you miss something, just wait until October. It's going to be on YouTube. You'll be fine. Now, the villages is actually where you're going to be getting the hands-on experience, right? So you're going to be talking about, things like biohacking, things like social engineering, vehicle hacking. They're going to be talking about, bypassing, just about everything in the world, right? Like voting machine hacking. You name it, like they're going to be talking about it in those villages, and you actually get hands-on experience with doing it. One of the things that, I always found entertaining, right, was at Defcon, they always had kids, kids have like a separate track or whatever that they can go down, but they always had kids hacking these voting machines, right? So it just makes you wonder, like, if these voting machines are so easy to hack, then how can it not be hacked in other scenarios, right? So just something to think of, right? Something for me to think of. That's how I think of it. Next we also have the parties, so there's always after hours parties. There's always happy hours going on, like nonstop. It could be vendor or sponsor led. It could be official DEF CON parties. It could be parties from, random people that want to put it on, or organizations and groups and whatnot, right? A lot of them are invite only. So you have to be invited to them. You have to maybe know someone or whatnot. And that's where your networking comes into play, right? That's when you actually get to learn where the parties are and, what they are, how they are, what to experience, all that good stuff. So just something to keep in mind if that's, not your scene, from what I understand, right? Like it's not like a normal, party or anything like that. It's a bit more professional, but it's still a good time. You're in Vegas. You have to enjoy yourself. So let's go ahead and talk about some best practices. So I get asked this question a whole lot. And it is, should I bring my cell phone with? Should I bring my laptop with? Should I bring my tablet with? Right? All these different things. And it's a complicated question, right? So there's actually signs when you're entering the DEF CON conference saying, you are at risk of being hacked. If you go beyond this, your own personal security is your own responsibility from this point on. You can get hacked at any point in time via any method that someone sees fit, right? And so it is absolutely recommended. It's almost mandatory that you do not bring your work laptop with you, because that just opens your company up to an attack landscape or an attack framework, right? That that they are not prepared for, that they're not expecting, and so you should not bring your work laptop or work phone or work anything when you're at this conference. For your personal devices like cell phones, your laptop, your tablet, your watch, right? Watches nowadays. This is how I do it. If you're at the conference, if you're at any of those resorts, you should disable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, like 100%. You should just disable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. When you need to use it, you should be using a VPN. So like, let's say you need to, for some reason, turn on Wi-Fi. As soon as you turn on Wi-Fi, you should be using a VPN for whatever you're doing, right? Whenever I'm there, I'm not using any ATMs, because the ATMs could be bugged, and they could be pulling your credit card information from there. Like, this is a legit thing. People do go to these conferences. Some of them are ethical hackers, and they'll just take your information and see what they can do with it, right? And they won't take all the money out of your bank account. There's other people there that will take that information and attempt to take all the money out of your bank account, for example. So when you're there, if you plan on spending cash on something, like, I don't know, if you have cash budgeted for gambling or whatever it might be, right? It is Vegas. Use your imagination. You should be bringing that cash with you on the flight. You should not be going to Vegas and expecting to go to the ATM at the Bellagio or Caesar's Palace or Venetian and use their ATM, you'll be able to use it, but you're really opening yourself up here. And if you're going to use an ATM, go to a bank branch off the strip and actually use it there. That's really the best way for you to do it, which is very inconvenient, but that's how it is during this conference. Another thing that we should talk about is Faraday sleeves, right? Faraday bags, Faraday sleeves. I was actually going to get some of those products. I just, kind of forgot and slipped my mind and whatnot, right? But yeah, those are absolutely a good idea. If you want to have your laptop on you and you don't want to be, constantly bombarded with different attacks and whatnot, put your laptop in a Faraday sleeve or a Faraday bag, blocks all connections. And then when you want to take notes or something, you can pull it out, take the notes, put it away, something like that. But, again, you need to be disabling Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. That's just how it is. In my opinion, we can talk about the best places to stay, at least in my opinion. For me personally, I love staying at the Link because they redid all of their rooms in their casino a couple of years ago. It's actually really nice. They're very reasonably priced. And for Defcon, you're in the perfect location on the strip. I mean, the perfect location, especially for the price, you're not going to beat it. You are right in the heart of the conference, pretty much. You're right by Harrah's, Flamingo, Venetian. You're right by Caesar's Palace, Bellagio. Planet Hollywood is not too far away, but it is still a hike, and you're in the middle of the desert. It's going to be like 125 degrees at this conference, so you need to be dressing appropriately. That's another thing that someone asked me is like, well, what do you wear? Look, this is DEF CON. This is a bunch of hackers. You're not there to impress anyone. Wear a t-shirt, some shorts. If you go to a nice dinner like I do one nice dinner with some close friends of mine, right? We bring one pair of pants, we bring one nice pair of shoes and a button down / collared shirt, something like that. But that is literally that one night. The other 99% of the time that I'm there, I'm in shorts, a t-shirt, gym shoes. I got a hat on, because I'm bald. I don't want to get burned on top of my head. That would really suck. But yeah, plan accordingly for that. Another thing is identifying what food places you actually want to go to. It is Vegas, right? So they have just about everything on the strip that you can possibly imagine. And the buffets at Bellagio, Venetian, and Caesar's Palace are absolutely amazing. I mean, they're some of the best buffets in the entire world. I go to them. I go to them like every single day. And that's not the only thing that I go to, but I just personally make that time and I do that because they are that good. I mean, they offer literally everything that you could want for food. Like they have it. You want sushi, you want crab legs, you want lobster, you want a steak, you want whatever it is, they have it. And so it's amazing. Some of these places require reservations. So take note of those places, make the reservations when you need to. Just make sure that you're planning out your trip accordingly. 90% of this trip doesn't need to be planned beyond your hotel and flight, but there's always going to be different things that if you want to do, you are in Vegas, that you have to book, you have to plan. So plan accordingly. And another thing that, I really want to talk about is don't be afraid to leave your friends or your coworkers. Everyone approaches this conference differently. I was talking to a good friend of mine and he went to DEF CON last year. He went there with his boss, and his boss is not someone that is going to be drinking a bunch. He's not going to go to the bar. He's not going to be gambling that much. He's not going to go to any parties. He's going to go to the talks and then back to his hotel room. That's cool. That's on him. That's what he wants to do for his conference, right? But for me, I want to go to a couple talks. I want to go gamble. I want to have some drinks throughout the entire day. I want to eat at the nice restaurants. I want to go to the parties and the clubs. I want to do all of it, you know? So don't be afraid to leave the people that may not want to do that stuff. Leave them behind. That's okay. Like that's 100% okay. That's 100% expected in my opinion. You know, if you're not an adult enough to be able to go out on your own and experience life, you know, on your own terms, then, you know, we have other things that need to be talked about. And one more thing, you know, before I let you guys go, right? If your company is sending you to Defcon, if they are paying for you to go to Defcon, you should be prepared when you come back with a presentation, a couple slides talking about what you experienced, what you learned there, the areas that could actually impact, you know, how you guys do security at your company, and potentially some areas that you could improve upon. You know, really keep it simple, keep it brief. You know, it doesn't have to be extravagant or anything like that. But, you know, 9 times out of 10 companies that send their employees to these conferences, they want to make sure that they're learning, that they're actually getting value from this conference, that they're not just going there and partying, even though that's like 50% of what you do, because it's Vegas, right? But they want to know that they're getting value out of it, you know? And so just keep that in mind as you go through your conference, you know, maybe take notes along the way, right? Like, oh, I saw this talk. It was really interesting. Here's a couple bullet points about it. I saw this other thing. It was really interesting. This is maybe what we can do or what we can change internally to be better at security and be better overall. All right, guys. Well, that's all that I have for you. Again, you know, if you see me in Vegas, go ahead and ask for a sticker. If I have them, I will give them to you. And, you know, as always, if you like this video, if you enjoy this podcast, please like the video, subscribe to it. If you're listening to the audio format, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. That would be fantastic. Fantastic. It helps me out a lot with all the different algorithms and everything. So see you guys. I'll see everyone in Vegas.